So the next session is a follow-up on Takaful. We have a special presentation from somebody who is really the leading mind in the field of global Takaful, someone who is a very knowledgeable speaker, very engaging and entertaining speaker as well. Also somebody who is, for many, many years and all around the world, supported Omani in our various events and efforts throughout the years. To introduce our speaker is also our host for this event and also a good friend, Mr. Sulaiman al-Harthy from Meethaq. If I could welcome to the stage to introduce our next speaker. Sulaiman?
Assalamu alaikum. I was worried. He said, I have a presentation, but I don't know nothing about Takaful and insurance. But apparently, I only have to introduce the speaker. So our speaker today is Dr. Manfred Dirrheimer, Chairman of FW Takaful UAE. The Chairman, Dr. Manfred, an acknowledged global expert in distribution of Takaful products, he will give his thoughts on the most cost-effective and profitable ways to bring this new product to retail markets. So welcome, please join me to welcome Dr. Manfred. Having managed retail banking for quite some time, we had bancassurance in Bank Muscat under the name of Hayatuna. Some of you might know it. So I have a little bit of background on the distribution of this product. But of course, we have an expert here, and hope we will be able to gain a lot of insights. Good morning. There is a question, and I pick up from the discussion by the previous speakers. Specifically, Mr. Gautam mentioned that to be able to be profitable, you have to have that critical mass. And since Takaful is a new product and we have challenges of primarily explaining to people what is the difference between insurance and Takaful. So what are the strategies one would take to actually distribute this new product?
That might help. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the question.
Sorry?
When we started looking into the Takaful business, that was around the year 2000, for us it was very clear that we did not want to make any compromise in the product. And at that time, when we talk today about Takaful products, we talk about rather modern structures that are competitive in the markets. At that time, we had a lot of structures that had been based on the Mudalba model, which was not so efficient from an administrative point of view. So I think the first question we have to ask ourselves is the Takaful product, is this a niche product in itself, or is it a product that is part of the worldwide life insurance market? And I think that the Takaful products that will be provided have to see as a benchmark other products in the life insurance market. That's what these products have to compete with. In the old days, there was the saying, do you want the question to the Muslim community, do you want to have a product of your belief, or do you want to have a product that is economically feasible? Those days are over. I think the modern structures of the Takaful provide features that are not only appealing to Muslims. When we are selling our products, we find, for example, in the case of Malaysia, a rather developed market for Takaful products, where we have about 55% Muslims, 45% non-Muslims, that over 65% of our products are sold to non-Muslims. Now, our GM in Malaysia, he is Chinese, and I realized that we have a rather sizable number of Chinese customers. So I asked him and said, Juan, this cannot only be your family members, so why are Chinese people buying Muslim products? And he had a very easy answer. He said, Chinese people can count. So that means evidently there is economic feasibility in the product, and that's what I would like to explore a little bit more. And I think we can be proud on the development of the last 10 years that took place in the community, in the Muslim community, together with the Sharia advisors such as Daud, but other colleagues of him, that clearly understood that if we are not able to provide a competitive product in a worldwide market, then we are only second best. And second best might only help in few situations. We want to be best. And I recall, and that's maybe the last quotation I do in that respect, when I was invited to a conference in London, it must have been 2001 or so, there was a very famous regional scholar, and he sat on stage, and they, and I had somehow the feel he meant people like me by saying they have made out of a great idea a product. And I later on joined him and said, with all respect, if we are not able to make out of an idea a product, we will not have anything to sell. And if we do not have anything to sell, that means there is no demand for it. So let's prove that there is demand for the idea by making products. I had the feel at that time he was not perfectly convinced by my statement, but at least he was polite enough not to contradict.
I have some other questions, but I understand you have a presentation, so the questions may be answered through the presentation.
I can do either way, so, but my PA would be very much disappointed if I cannot do the presentation.
Yes, please. So she's there looking at me, and saying, presentation. So please come to this.
I can. Then I leave this here. First of all, I would like to tell you that I'm not only talking about Bank-takaful, we are doing that. We have about 27 partners in different markets mentioned earlier, and we do this kind of business since 2003. So what I'm sharing with you is experience and is not analytical thoughts. Second remark, I have to disappoint you. Bank assurance is not a pure success story. Actually, bank assurance has more failure than successes. In our case, I probably would not be standing here if I would have to confess our BancaTakaful approach is a failure. Daud is not known to invite people who have a bad track record. So far, so good. But there are some generic thoughts to be shared with you maybe from the beginning. One of them is that BancaTakaful is similar to bank assurance, but on the basis of Takaful or life Takaful products. I'm talking about family Takaful. I'm not talking about the general side, which is in many ways completely different. A very important point is the success of BancaTakaful is not defined on the top management level. It is not sufficient if I shake hands with the chairman of a bank. It is rather decided on the operative sales floor. If these people do not sell, we can do whatever we want. We will not be successful. So we have to make sure that these people have an appetite to sell. Successful BancaTakaful bridges the gap between the more client-oriented sales approach of banks and the rather product-oriented sales approach of takaful operators. If you talk to these people at the bank counter, they normally have a set of clients they take care of, and they have a clear client orientation. They have a couple of products, they have credit cards, they have car loans, they have home financing, they have asset management services, and out of a sudden there's a product which in a way is different. Because takaful, family takaful products, you do not buy based on your own experience. That's a big difference to a lot of other products. If you have bought a Japanese car and you find out this is the wrong car for the nice roads in Oman and you rather prefer a Mercedes, then your switch might be based on experience. Or you have first bought a Mercedes and you realize that you prefer the desert, and then maybe an SUV of Japan is the preferable choice of yours. So your choice is based on your experience. When you are in a position to evaluate your life insurance product or your family takaful product, you are either too old or too sick or both in order to make a new decision. That means experience has to be replaced by something. In the case of takaful, it is basically trust. Trust you have in the product provider, trust you have in the description of the product. And here, Islamic aspects come in with a significant aspect. The issue of gharar is an issue in the case of family takaful. Transparency as a follow-up is a key ingredient, and without transparency, it's very difficult to evaluate such a product. So I think this is one, for example, of the reasons why non-Muslims appreciate takaful products. It's very transparent. Another of the generic thoughts, BancaTakaful, for that reason, should better be called bankable takaful, because we have to see the bank like a supermarket. The supermarkets, we all know, have shelves. There are different products in. And we have to make sure, if we want to sell takaful products, that, and we want to sell it via banks, that those products are comparable, or in other words, bankable. They are comparable to the other products in the bank. And one of the key ingredients that make takaful products so dangerous for salespeople in the bank is the sharing of the risk. And as a result of that, you normally have to evaluate the risk. For the bank clerk normally is not used to ask his client the question, sir, somehow you look so pale today, is there something wrong with you? Or I heard you coughing lately so often, what's going on? This is not what you talk in banks about. And normally, a bank clerk, if he knows the gentleman has enough resources on his account, he sells him a Sharia-compliant investment fund. He knows the only thing he has to reach out for is the signature of the client. In the case of takaful, he on top has to make sure that the client is not only accepted by him, the client has to be accepted by the insurance company as well. So it might be one of his best clients he has picked for a great insurance product, and then his best client is turned down by the insurance company. Not a very attractive perspective for a salesperson. So that hurdle you have to overcome. And successful BancaTakaful's product are able to overcome that hurdle. Otherwise, they are very seldom successful. Bank insurance plays a different role in different parts of the world, and as the world is really very large and our screen relatively small, that is leading to the fact that evidently there is a Garar issue here, so it's not very transparent, but everyone who really is interested in that kind of the world presentation will be able to get this presentation and can study the countries. Let's move on. Oman. I'm talking about something that I appreciate very much because I have to say our first tests, bracket open, unsuccessful tests, bracket closed, we did do here in Oman in the year 2002. And we heard similar stories like in the UAE. We heard the story, we are not really, we are more a cosmopolitan country here. We are not really in Islamic finance. And why don't you go to our neighbor next door to Saudi Arabia? Actually, that was not such bad advice. We did that, and then we came back to the UAE. Now we are back here in Oman. We understand that as a follow-up of the bank assurance directives, the acceleration of BancaTakaful growth is taking place, will be taking place in this country. We know banks can only appoint one product provider for each product line. I must say I do appreciate that, not because I'm a product provider and I don't like competition. The world is full of competition, and probably you only are chosen as a provider for a period of time. But it's always very complicated to combine two or more product providers on one technical platform, especially if you start the business in the country. So there is reasons, I think, to have that solution being brought in place. Conventional banks will also be able to participate in the business via so-called windows, and the bank assurance rate is estimated at 10% and growing. As I do not have any statistic myself, I have to believe what I heard. What are, from my point of view, the key success factors for BancaTakaful? The first and most important one is the top management support. And here I mean the top management of the distributing entity, probably the bank, and the top management of the insurance operation. If that is not the case, you will not be second best, you will be further behind. At least this success factor was also found in a study of a partner of ours, Hannover Re, in their analytical findings. The second is that we do correct shelf management in the banks. I have to confess, when we started our operations in the UAE, we had a nice office with 10 insurance experts, and I have to confess, after 1 year, we had to clean the shop, and I think besides the T-boy, no one survived, because we had to realize that insurance people talking to bankers doesn't work. Insurance people want to transform bankers into high-level insurance agents. And sometimes they even have an intellectual enjoyment on the side of the bankers, but the very moment they start having that, they lose their ability of being successful bankers. So I think we have to make sure that this shelf management works. And as I said, it should be like a supermarket for financial products. Client orientation versus product orientation. We talked about that already, so we can pass that. And one critical factor here is indeed the underwriting process. If you are in a situation where your takaful product and faces the opportunity that your client is being turned down, that is not a good product solution. What does underwriting process mean? We heard the question in the previous session, are there more claims with takaful than with non-takaful? I would say claims are distributed equally. If you pick the wrong crowd, it doesn't matter whether they are Muslims or whether they are non-Muslims, then you face a higher burden of risk. It's not the risk per se that makes a difference. It is the management of the risk that makes the difference. And modern takaful products face similar structures like traditional products. To give you an example, in our case, we only ask 2 health questions. We ask them what kind of concrete diseases did the person have, and we also ask them whether they have been out of work for more than 3 weeks. This is something everyone can memorize. Often you find the question, have you been seeing a doctor the last 5 years? Now what does the answer tell you? If he says yes, is he then a bad client because he goes to the doctor? Or if he says no, you could say, what an idiot, he never goes to the doctor. Is he therefore better? So there are a lot of stupid questions in that area which might contribute to the entertaining part, but not to the business part. In our case, we concentrate on 2 questions, and there are, in the meantime, I think, much more socio-economic factors that play a role in the risk evaluation than the real health or medical questions that we have been facing in the past. So this part of the application process should be kept very snappy and short if you want to be successful in BancaTakaful. The next thing is that the selection process of the clients with the current bank and not with insurance practice. What does this mean? It means that we should follow the taste of the bank clerk choosing his client, and he should not be affected by the thought, is this gentleman too old or too sick for me as a client? And that means that in our case, our banking distributing partners know that their clients will always be accepted. Will always be accepted. They can have cancer, they can have HIV, they will always be accepted. Of course, not with the highest ticket number. Sometimes there are some procedural barriers that we say we have to wait for 2 or 3 years. But these are technical issues. But the bank clerk can be ensured he does not have to turn down one of his clients. I think, from my point of view, whether you believe it or not, one of the key success factors on the operative side of the business. Incentive structures, if you talk to a bank manager, then of course they play no role at all because people are always motivated, but I can tell you there are differences in people. And it is not sufficient that the incentive structure is only right for the operative bank clerk. The incentive structure has also to be right for the person who has to do the training, for the person who runs the show in the outlet. So I think shelf management means that you, as the provider of the product, have an intense dialogue with the distributor on how the incentive structure for your product is in comparison to the other product. Because your competitive product, if you are the provider of MIIFF, is not the MIIFF product of the insurance company next door. Your direct competitor is the other products in the bank shelf. That is what some people do not have in mind when they start selling these products. Next success factor, I think also a very important one, is the IT solutions you have. A lot of companies, insurance companies, takaful operators, concentrate on investing heavily in IT with respect to the administration of the products. I must say this is the wrong priority. If you do not have sales, you do not need to administer. Very simple. No product has a market share, only a sold product has a market share. So let's concentrate on the sales process. You need to have today an online sales module that is able to be part of the normal sales process in the bank. This sales module needs to be linked with the administrative part. It has to have a communicative part in it, because there's a lot of communication. Often people think life insurance is very simple. As long as the client lives, he has to pay. And if the client has passed away, then the bank potentially has to pay. But there's a lot of communication in between as well. There might be a late payment, there might be a change in contract. All that has to be managed in a convenient way. IT solutions have to make the product convenient in the sales process. Successful approaches do consist not only of successful product features, but also of convenient sales processes. To give you some hints, if it works. So it starts with the language. In Saudi Arabia, we have 50% of our applicants who choose the language Arabic. The other people choose the language English. We have Urdu, we have Malay, we have, of course, also German for the French target group. No, we sell these products in Germany as well, not in the UAE. We are not so widespread. Language, one feature. Very important feature, calendar. For you, it's very clear that you have a Hijri calendar and that you have a Gregorian calendar. Ask some of the European insurance providers, they don't even know about that. And for people like Owais Ansari, this is a nightmare, because actuaries have to combine a more or less 11-month year with a 12-month year. And they have to even allow that to switch from one calendar to the other during the term of your product. You might be state employed in Saudi Arabia, and it's very clear you get your money following the Hijri calendar, and then you switch to a private employment and you are paid by the Gregorian calendar. Very important feature. Important is also the online collection of the first premium. The whole process has to be quickly and should not consume a lot of time. Don't forget, you are selling the product within a bank. There are other people in the bank as well. If this one client takes 45 minutes, you can imagine what happens. So in our case, we can say an online sales process doesn't take longer than 10 to 12 minutes, from saying hello or assalamu alaikum till saying sayonara, or you wouldn't say that, sending the client home. In between, he has filed the application form. Actually, we don't even use an application form. We pinch in the information directly in the screen. The printout is the program. The first premium is collected. The underwriting is carried out. And within 12 months, the client goes home. And he goes home as a client of the bank who has acquired a product of the bank, even if it is a takaful product provided by someone else. Speed here is important, not perfection. If you have a program that can run in 50 minutes and is more colorful and maybe more entertaining, you will not have a lot of clients. One aspect I wanted to share with you, that is, if you sell with such a based program, then a lot of people think, yeah, web-based programs, the key factor is speed. I'm telling you there's something else to it, which is very important if you are a provider or a distributor. That difference refers to the fact that we, for the first time, can participate at the sales process. If you use an application form, a paper application form, you can check indirectly the number of complaints, you can check the number of lapses, and indirectly you have a measurement for the quality of the business. Here in our case, we know exactly of the 17 points of an application form, we know exactly how much time a regular salesperson needs per item. And if we have someone who takes 4 times the amount of time, then we know either he is always telling his favorite joke at that point, or he's not so knowledgeable about the point. That's easily to be found out. So we screen all application processes automatically, and we send out mails to people referring to these kind of problems. So you have for the first time a direct control of a sales process, not an unimportant feature for a distributor. One important point is the private labeling issue. Again, in the previous session, we heard how is the trust in a product best built up for a product that is not really known in the market and that needs education. It's much better if the client has, if you private label the product, because then the trust the client has in a bank is automatically being transferred in the trust of the product. That is why BancaTakaful is such a good market entry strategy, and this is why it is such a good bonding strategy for the life, for the banks. They might use one producer, but as long as they have an own branded name, sooner or later they can replace the producer, but they still keep the name. That is something I would always recommend for the distributor to look into. And private labeling doesn't mean only the application form. Private labeling has to take place in any communication form that takes place between the client and the distributor, respectively the Takaful operator. I've shown here some of the labels that we use. One is our beloved sponsor, mBank, but you see also great beaches with no people, evidently everybody at the moment at the sales counter, no one at the beach. Private labeling, very important. We talked about Takaful instead of reinsurance. I think whatever you do as a Takaful operator, you can follow any rule that Sharia is setting. The very moment you accept traditional reinsurance, you let through the back door, so to speak, the devil come in. You cannot really claim that you have a Takaful product if you use in these days still traditional reinsurance. I do know, like a lot of other people in the market, that there is a very attractive feature combined with traditional reinsurer. This is that there is also a profit redistribution. In the case of traditional reinsurance, that profit redistribution goes to the Takaful operator, whereby in the case of Takaful, the surplus redistribution is obliged to go to the participant. And that is correct because in that case the participants are the ultimate risk takers. It's not the Takaful operator. The Takaful operator is like a manager of the risk, but the risk taker is the community of insured people. I skipped through that because I summarized that hopefully, and I just wanted to share with you one slide, because this morning it was asked what is the difference between traditional insurance and Takaful products. In the Takaful product structure, there is a split of the contribution in the investment fund and the solidarity fund. The Takaful operator, in the case we use a Vakala model, is called Vakil. He manages those structures. The risk-bearing entity is not the Vakil. It is the group of participants. And the problem that might happen in that Takaful Solidarity Fund is that there is a shortfall. There are not enough participants. We had the question, do we need a critical mass? Of course we do. Wrong timing. We might have distributed the surplus in December, and we have the unfortunate situation of passing away of quite a lot of people in January. And all that leads to the fact that a wise Vakil brings in Takaful. And ReTakaful is a backup to the Takaful Solidarity Fund. And the rules for the ReTakaful operator are also very clear. First of all, it is a backup. It is not a risk transfer. But the ReTakaful operator guarantees resources in case of a shortfall. You call this the Kurt Hasen. It's basically a pre-financing that is interest-free. But it makes quite a difference to your clients, especially if you are a bank distributor. You want to make sure that there is a solid ReTakaful operator with a rating backing this up. The terms under which such a ReTakaful operator has to work is that he gets only a flat fee. He has to provide this guarantee. He has to make sure that the resources that he takes over from the Takaful Solidarity Fund are also invested in a Sharia-compliant way, and he has to make sure that there is 100% surplus redistribution. Now I ask you, if you are a non-Muslim or a Muslim, I think this is a feature that is very appealing, 100% Takaful surplus redistribution. And the question was, is this also of a material substance? And I can tell you it is. First, so if you look at this box on the right, the bottom, it shows you the percentage that we have redistributed worldwide, because we are only using one ReTakaful fund, between 2006 to 2012. So we are talking indeed about a material number that otherwise would have been stranded with the Takaful operator or the life insurance company. I think Garar, transparency, the way the risk management is taken care of, speak all other ingredients taken equal for such a Takaful solution. There's often the issue that I hear that, yes, all these issues, Manfred, they seem to look quite nice, but don't we have to suffer if it comes to the investment? And I have always two answers to that. First of all, I'm saying if I compare the investment in sustainable investments, and I've seen them grow from the 80s of the last century till today, the rules are not that much different than the rules that apply to Sharia-compliant investments. There is one feature where evidently we do have an issue, that is the risk balancing, where we have in the traditional world the advantage of using bonds. In the Muslim world, we do not have bonds because of the riba issue, but we do have sukuks, but sukuks do not have, at the moment at least, the same quality. Listing of sukuks is formally the case, but if it comes to transferability of sukuk units, it normally is very difficult. So I think the investment structure is an issue, but the more scholars deal with that topic, the more they find solutions. And one solution that we have found is that you can have, instead of, where is it? You can have a so-called high watermark introduced into your investments. That means that a feature that you have been finding in Western structures from time to time, because it's a rather technologically complex feature, it will make sure that towards the end of the duration of your term, you will be paid with the highest unit price you had been seeing during your investment period. And as this is a feature offered, then you are more able to invest in equity market. You do not have to keep 50% in cash where it's hardly bearing any gain. And I would like to invite you to see how that feature works. And then afterwards, I'm more or less finished. So someone needs now to help me, or do I have to press a button only? Okay.
Hello, and welcome to FWU.
I had always said we should use a female voice, but that's the only deficiency in that approach.
Savings plan. Thanks to our financial solidity and our actively managed investment strategies that focus on capital preservation and risk-adjusted return, our company has developed a Sharia-compliant investment program that offers you the ideal foundation for the success of your Takaful savings plan. The investment objective of the program is to protect the principal investment by offering a flexible, secure, and innovative participation in the stock market growth in full compliance with Sharia requirements. In the following short film, we would like to introduce you to an innovative product that has enabled us to safeguard our clients against falling stock prices. The Sharia-compliant solution is called Dynamic Protection Program, an investment structure built into our existing equity strategies to allow for participation in the upward trends of the equity markets, whilst offering protection in bear markets. At monthly reference dates, the program locks in and secures capital gains for payout at maturity. On the 8th day of every month, we review the strategy's current unit price, and if a new maximum has been reached, that price is the new protected unit price until maturity of your Takaful savings plan. Using the example of a monthly savings contribution of 200 euros, we will illustrate in the following simulation how the protection feature works and how you can benefit from it. Throughout the life of your Takaful savings plan, each of your monthly contributions is used to purchase additional units of the investment strategy at the currently applicable market unit price. On the 8th of each month, the current market unit price is compared to the protected unit price. If, for example, the unit price is decreasing due to falling equity markets, and at the reference date the unit price is 70 euros, you will acquire 2.8571 units for your investment of 200 euros. The Dynamic Protection Program, however, already secures the hitherto maximum unit price of 100 euros for payout at maturity of your Takaful policy. The value of your units is therefore 285 euros and 71 cents, amounting to a protected gain of at least 85 euros and 71 cents at maturity. History shows that stock prices are subject to substantial fluctuations. If the previously protected unit price of 100 euros is not exceeded at the next reference date, it will continue to apply as before. If the market unit price on the second reference date is 95 euros, for example, you would buy another 2.1053 units. The Dynamic Protection Program, with the protected unit price of 100 euros, will already grant a gain of 10 euros and 53 cents for these units. If the strategy's unit price continues to fall during the life of the Takaful savings plan, your savings contributions will be used to acquire additional units at a more favorable purchase price. For example, if the current market unit price is 65 euros, you will acquire a total of 3.0769 units for your savings contribution of 200 euros. Thanks to the Dynamic Protection Program, for this additional investment, you will profit from a gain of 107 euros and 69 cents at maturity. So sit back and relax. The Dynamic Protection Program simply means more favorable purchase prices and higher gains as equity markets fall. Should the market unit price subsequently recover, regardless of when in the overall savings phase, and, for example, reach 110 euros on the reference date, you will now acquire 1.8182 units for your savings contribution of 200 euros. Now that the current market unit price is above the historical protected unit price of 100 euros, the current price will replace the previous protected price, also for all units acquired in the past, and the value of those units will be corrected upwards. That's the Dynamic Protection Program. You can only win and enjoy the benefits of this innovative mechanism. This principle applies to all future contributions. Should the price continue upwards to 120 euros, you will acquire a further 1.6666 units. At the same time, the protected redemption price at maturity for all previously acquired units under your policy is increased to this new protected unit price. That means additional protected gains on returns for your savings plan. You can be assured to enjoy the benefits upon the maturity of your Takaful savings plan. If, for example, the current market unit price at that time is 98 euros, the value of your portfolio, based on our example, would be 1,129 euros and 36 cents for your 11.5241 units. This represents a capital appreciation of only 12.9%. The Dynamic Protection Program, however, means that the historical protected unit price of 120 euros will apply, thereby increasing the value of the portfolio at maturity. In our example, the portfolio value would be 1,382 euros and 90 cents, which represents a sizable capital appreciation of 38.29%. Dynamic Protection Program, the Sharia-compliant smart way to invest.
The reason I have been showing that is, of course, because I wanted to give you again the name FW. No, the real reason is those features are in the meantime offered in the market. Of course, we offer them as well. And what I try to explain is that the times of pure, boring investment structures, if you talk about Takaful products, is really over, and you should be more challenging to your providers to make sure that you get the best offer for your client. The way we operate in the market is that we basically have this complete infrastructure ready for Takaful operators, and we help them to place the business with distributors via banks. That's how we operate in the different markets. And I must say, I would very much wish Oman to have a great start in that new area of Takaful, family Takaful business. I think it's wise to choose as a starting point the BancaTakaful route. And if we are invited to play a role sooner or later, we are ready. We are next door in UAE, and we like to come and follow any invitation. Thank you very much for your patience. I know it was hard stuff, but I was told by Daoud I should not be as entertaining as always. This is a serious meeting, and I try to be as serious as I can. Thank you very much.